Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation. I'm excited to introduce you to our topic, First Dates, the Comedy and Psychology. In this session, we'll explore how humor and psychological insights can help you navigate first dates more effectively. We'll look at what to do and what to definitely avoid so your next date can be memorable for all the right reasons. So let's get started and dive into how comedy and psychology blend to create better dating experiences. Let's talk about authenticity versus rehearsed romance. When we speak genuinely, it feels light and natural, not theatrical. It's best to compliment what you genuinely notice about someone. Keep your words simple and sincere. Trying to sound overly poetic or rehearsed can backfire. Scripted lines rarely land well because they often sound fake, and the pressure to remember them can make us more anxious. For example, the classic line, "No pair of eyes in the world is as beautiful as yours," or "You are the moon of my life," might sound romantic, but if you're just reciting it, it often feels forced and doesn't truly connect. The sketch humorously shows how over-rehearsed poetry can come across as hilariously dramatic and, frankly, unconvincing. The key takeaway is this: people appreciate honesty. Authenticity beats rehearsed lines every time. When you speak from the heart, even simply noticing something genuine, like a smile or a kind gesture, your words will resonate more. So focus on being real, keep it simple, and let your sincerity shine through. So when we're talking about shared laughter, it's really about creating a connection through humor that feels natural and comfortable, not awkward or shocking. Think about situational jokes, those that arise spontaneously from the moment, to keep things playful and lighthearted. The goal is to foster playfulness, which makes interactions more engaging and genuine. Now, when aiming for humor, some people might consider jokes that could come across as insensitive, toilet humor, or even insults. Yes, even funny insults. But here, the key: not all humor is attractive or appropriate. It's important to understand what kind of humor builds rapport and what might just push people away. A real-life takeaway from this is that even if a girl laughs, it doesn't always mean she's interested. Sometimes she just blocks you afterward. Like she might say, "Wow, that's great. You can SHT on anybody." But that's not a sign of genuine connection. Then there's the infamous birdie joke. His friend claims that girls like boys who can make them laugh. And that's true. Humor is one of the most attractive traits a guy can have. But here's the thing: humor works, just not that kind of humor. Jokes that push boundaries or are offensive can backfire and undermine your chances. So the main takeaway is that humor must be genuine, respectful, and situationally appropriate. When used wisely, it's a powerful tool to build attraction. When misused, it can quickly derail your efforts. When choosing a date spot, think beyond just the setting. Cafes, quiet dessert shops, walking dates, bookstores, these are all great options. But honestly, what matters more is your confidence. When you feel relaxed and comfortable, that energy is contagious. And the best part? There are no awkward distractions pulling your focus away. Women aren't necessarily looking for luxury, they're looking for effort and comfort. So pick a place where you can genuinely connect without feeling pressured. Remember, it's not about how much you spend, but how you create a meaningful experience. Now here's a real-life takeaway. A cozy, simple spot can beat a fancy, expensive one every time. But let's be honest here. The truth: coffee shops can get pricey, fast food can seem a bit sad, and burgers might remind you of Dracula's teeth, which isn't exactly romantic. Fries? Well, some humorously say they have erectile dysfunction because they just can't stand up straight. And trying to plan a movie date often backfires. Timing, expectations, it all gets complicated. So remember, choosing the perfect date spot isn't about money. It's about creating a relaxed, genuine environment where both of you can be yourselves. That's what really makes an impression. Women appreciate humor and warmth, and they value feeling comfortable around someone. It's important to remember that romance develops from that sense of comfort, not from forcing or crossing boundaries. When we try to push physical boundaries without consent, it can damage trust and make the other person uncomfortable. A real-life takeaway I want to emphasize is, should I tickle her? No, never. Absolutely not. That kind of behavior can be intrusive and disrespectful. The key message here is, don't force romance or physical moves. Building genuine connections means respecting boundaries and allowing things to develop naturally. When you focus on creating a comfortable environment, everything else tends to follow more authentically. This ties back to our overall theme of respectful and genuine interactions. All right, let's talk about eye contact. The key here is to keep it natural. Don't stare intensely or look like you're trying to hypnotize her. On the other hand, don't dart your eyes around nervously either. Just look at her when she's speaking, smile gently, and relax your face. Think of it as creating a warm, soft connection. Proper eye contact should feel intermittent, occasional, genuine, and comfortable. It's all about being real and authentic. A common mistake is trying too hard to make romantic eye contact, which can backfire and look really awkward, like the guy in the picture, staring like a serial killer or a confused cyclops. The takeaway here is that eye contact should be natural and warm, not forced or overly intense. Remember, the eye contact struggle is real, but with a little practice, it becomes a lot easier to connect genuinely. Keep it light, relaxed, and real. That's what makes a difference. Presence is power. When you're with someone, giving them your full attention really shows that you value the moment. Keep your phone off the table and on silent, especially during dates, because even the slightest ringing can distract both of you. Remember, the phone rule. Don't break it. Using social intelligence means being mindful of how your actions impact your connection. Unfiltered impulses, like making sexual jokes or sharing private body details, can sometimes cross boundaries and make others uncomfortable. It's important to recognize that honesty isn't just about saying everything that comes to mind. Your true values, your intentions, your day, your hobbies, these are the things that should be shared honestly to build trust. However, be cautious. Oversharing or oversharing inappropriately can actually damage trust. For example, when asked about the gym, some might blurt out something wildly inappropriate, which can be a turnoff. The key is to be honest, but not too honest. Striking that balance helps keep the connection genuine and respectful. Remember, authenticity is important, but so is knowing what's appropriate to share in the moment. All right, let's talk about the idea of prioritizing grace over ego. When it comes to paying the bill, it's important to remember never to argue or create an awkward situation. If she insists on paying, respect that by splitting the bill politely and respectfully. Offering to pay confidently can also show your good intentions and confidence, but always be prepared to step back if needed. Here's the modern rule I recommend. Focus on kindness and respect. The real-life takeaway here is that sometimes he might fumble. Maybe he forgets his card or has no cash, and in those moments, he'll look unprepared. That's okay. It's better to handle these situations gracefully than to get into a debate over who's paying. This leads us to the classic debate. Who pays? It's often a tricky question, but the goal is to navigate it smoothly. The bill payment test is a good way to think about it. How do you handle these situations with confidence and tact? So remember, the key is to stay gracious, avoid unnecessary conflict, and always aim for a respectful, confident approach. That's how you turn what could be an awkward moment into a demonstration of maturity and good manners. Let's talk about how to keep things smooth and respectful. First, it's really important to stay grounded. Stay calm and composed no matter what's happening. Think before you speak. Pausing for a moment can make all the difference. And remember, slow down. Rushing through things can lead to mistakes. When you're unsure, it's better to hold back than to try too hard. Trying too hard often creates chaos and confusion. Confidence isn't about frantic energy. It's about being calm and self-assured. Now, a real-life example helps illustrate this. When the girl called, he panicked and in his nerves insulted her friend, something like calling her that ugly dumb. That completely backfired and ruined his chances. So the key takeaway here is, don't try too hard because it can backfire. Instead, be polite, respectful, and genuinely kind to her friends. You're not there to flirt. You're showing you're trustworthy and someone who fits well into her social circle. And this can really influence her decisions, whether it's getting blocked or unblocked, defending her in fights, or simply how she sees you. Now, here's a funny but true point. To really win the girl, you often need to win over her best friend first. That's the essence of the best friend principle. If you want to succeed, don't neglect her closest allies. So, in summary, stay grounded, be respectful, and focus on building genuine trust. Winning the best friend is often your secret weapon in the game. Be authentically, confidently you. The real secret to impressing your date. You just need to show up as a grounded, warm, attentive version of yourself. You don't have to be a Casanova or put on some grand performance. There's no need for dramatic dialogue or acting. What truly impresses a woman isn't poetry, money, or perfect timing. It's emotional intelligence, being sincere, present, and genuinely comfortable in your own skin. Think about the entire sketch we discussed. It beautifully captures the panic, confusion, and comedy of dating. But underneath that humor lies a universal truth. You don't need perfection. What you really need is presence. When you're authentic and confident, you naturally connect. So remember, it's about showing up as your true self and being fully there in the moment. That's what really makes an impression.